It is, dare I say, better than I was worried about. The overarching plot of the show seems to be following through the same vein that the original show was doing. There's been a war, it's raging for 100 years. Aang has been trapped in ice for 100 years. He finally is revealed. Him, Sokka, and Katara need to travel to the Northern Water Tribe in order to teach Aang waterbending, though there does seem to be a little bit of a change here. But overall, pretty similar. That being said, there are good parts, there are bad parts, and there are parts that I've not yet made my mind up about, and I'm giving the show a chance to fix before I actually fully solidify an opinion. One thing I did not expect when going into the show was how gory it is actually going to be. The creators said that they were going to be appealing to a more adult, more Game of Thrones type audience, and I understood that at the time as more mature themes. I didn't realise that meant more visual horror shown. One of the first scenes in the show sets the tone very well, and that is seeing Sozin burn alive a man, and we watch his body turn into a mangled crisp. And that's another change that the show did that they had prepared us for, but I didn't realise they would fully lean into as much as they have. And that is that the first episode and the opening of the show changes very much from the cartoon. In the cartoon, we're sort of thrown straight into the action. Aang is just out of the iceberg, it's been 100 years, and he has to kind of figure things out as he goes. Whereas in the live action, we get all of the backstory first. We see Sozin, we see Sozin's comet, we see the genocide of the Southern Air Temple, which was so horrific to actually watch. Those kids, oh my god. And honestly, I did not mind this level of setup. I didn't mind it because I thought this was going to be the exposition for the world. It was not. There's a lot I liked about this episode. There's a lot I liked about the starting, and I will get into that in a minute. But I do want to say that the one thing that really kind of made it a bit annoying for me was the level of exposition that they kept throwing in there. And I do get it. I am a seasoned watcher of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I have seen the cartoon so many times. I grew up with it. I know this world, so exposition is always going to be a bit annoying to me. And I get why the creators would think that they need a lot of exposition because the story is quite complicated, and there are new viewers who have never heard of Avatar: The Last Airbender before, who are going in and watching it for the first time. But I do think that if you are going to focus your audience on a more adult audience, you can expect them to be able to infer. And I know some people found it very cringe, but I actually didn't mind the fact that Gran did the whole title sequence exposition while in the cave and explained what had happened. But I think it would have been so much better had we not already had a voiceover title sequence before, because the live action show had already told us exactly what had happened using that voiceover. So then repeating it with Gran just to get the nostalgic effect of this is the same one from the original show didn't really have as much impact as it should have. It really made it feel like they were drilling in this information into our heads when that wasn't needed. We can infer. We are adults. Character-wise, Sokka may not be sexist, and I did very much prefer the way that Aang came out of the iceberg in the original series, with Katara yelling at Sokka for being sexist. But other than that, he is exactly what I imagined him to be. He's the older brother, he's the leader, he's the protector, and he does really believe that he knows best. Zuko? Perfection. Exactly as I imagined him. I'm only in episode 1, but that is exactly what I pictured Zuko to be. And I really love how they're adding more depth to his character. They're showing the research he's done into finding the Avatar. They're showing him be a bit more angry and a bit more of trying to be a leader. And I think Zuko is a perfect example of where they're not taking away from the character, they are adding more depth. Because in the cartoon show, Zuko's entire character arc was him regaining his honor, but we never knew to what end. Whereas here, we know that Zuko wants to become the Fire Lord. That's his destiny, and in doing so, that will regain his honor, and we can infer that. And it's just a little way that the show is adding a bit more depth to the characters that we already know and love. Katara, I am reserved to withhold my opinion on. She does still have that comforting nature, but otherwise, she does seem a little bit lifeless. And one of the things that I loved so much about Katara's character in the original cartoon was her ability to be angry and her right to be angry. And so my only real worry with this show is that Katara isn't going to have that fire, have that spark, have that personality in her. But again, it's episode 1, so I'm withholding complete judgment until later on, but that is my one main worry. And Aang is exactly the goofy kid that we expected him to be, but he does have that level of seriousness about him. And I think a lot of the goofiness comes from the fact that the actor is so good at just looking a little bit goofy. And I know a lot of people were sad to lose the aspect of Aang that is wanting to go ride the elephant koi and wanting to go on its side quests and adventures. But I'm not that sad about it because I understand that for a live adaptation, they had said this was going to be more serious. They said that Aang was going to have more of a role in responsibility in becoming the Avatar. So I was both prepared for this change, and I also think it was the right choice narratively. Because Aang would be a lot less of a sympathetic character if we did open the show on a genocide and showed it in graphic detail, and then have this boy almost make light of it and want to just like avoid his responsibilities and have a lot of fun. And Aang is fundamentally the main character. He is the protagonist. He is the title character. He is the one that we follow throughout the entire series. He needs us to support him. And so this change, I think, more comes with the tone of the show. But otherwise, I do think that Aang's character is portrayed exactly as I thought he would be. But yeah, on to episode 2.